Okay, so this tutorial is the Taiko project, which is a documentary style of editing. And I'll explain what that means in a sec. So let's name this new project Taiko proj1 underscore your last name. As usual, browse to the save here. All right, and hit choose. We'll leave everything else as is, and we just hit OK. This will be a standard def project. Basic 4x3. It's old footage that I shot many years ago. And basically it's four talking heads. So anyway, let's bring the project in. So I click down here on the left, lower left, file import, and go to my save here where I have the folder Taiko stuff. I'll bring in the entire folder. Now, once it's here, I'll double click on it and I see my pictures up here. And usually I drag by the tab up here where it says bin, move it to the left vertical purple bar. And now we have, I'm going to rearrange my windows a little bit. Down here in the project bin, this is all fairly straightforward. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn to list mode, deselect it, create a new folder called Taiko cuts, and let's create one more and call it Taiko graphics. GRFX is my shortcut for that. Okay, so in this case, because this is all standard def and everything, and the easier way to just create a sequence is to just drag one of these clips. Assume they're all the same, which they are, I can tell you that. Drag it down to the timeline, and that will automatically create a sequence. So because I did that, I threw Kenny down, and I was in this bin. This tells me here's my sequence. It's called Kenny1, which is, we'll fix that in a second. But I want to get it out of my clips here and drag it down into my Taiko cuts. So there I have it now. I have a sequence. It's correct. I click on it and immediately rename it so I won't get confused later. I'm going to call this Taiko underscore cut 1 underscore my last name. All right. So that's in the correct spot now. Now also, it's just that I don't really need this as my first shot. It may be my first shot, but right now I'm going to just select it and then just hit delete to get rid of it. It does not delete the sequence or the settings. It just removes the clip from that sequence. But I will start with Kenny, not to confuse anything, but let me double click on him. And so in this case, I'm going to just he does a pause here, and then I'll pick it up. After this, he's going to say,
at a certain point.
At a certain point. So I can clean it up right up here before I bring it in. I will just, if I use the right arrow and just hold it down, it will actually kind of play in stutter step. And I use the left or right arrow. So there's two ats, and that's the second at now. Where his teeth are closed together. I'm marking in. Let me listen to it from here. Hit spacebar to play it.
At a certain point.
Okay, to go back to that, Shift-I goes back to the end point. I think there's a little extra sound before the second at. That's one frame. Mark a new in, it updates it, and I'll hit play again.
At a certain point, you stop.
Okay, I like that. So let's get to the end of this.
Becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art, but you become what I call bearer of the tradition. And with that, there's a responsibility to pass it on to people who are interested in learning more.
Okay, so there's my out for that idea. So I'm going to put V1 to V1, A1 to A1, hit the period, and there I have Kenny down on the timeline. I will now double click on the black area to the right of A1, the audio track right here. Double click that, it shows me the waveform. I'm going to expand this by hitting the plus sign, so I just see the waveforms a little bit better. Let's see what he actually says.
At a certain point, you stop becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art, but you become what I call bearer of the tradition. And with that, there's a responsibility to pass it on to people who are interested in learning more.
So the statement actually, to me, he's talking about people are interested in learning more is a little bit redundant. And so and there's a pause.
Interested in learning more.
So I'm going to just get out of it but after he says learning. I don't need the more. You can't learn, well, you could learn less, but generally people learn more anyway, so it's kind of redundant. So the simple ways, as you can see my mouse, when I drag it over here, I can click on the edge and just pull it in. Oh, wait a minute, how come the sound doesn't come with it? Command-Z, undo it. I realize my case here, my link selection was off. I'll make sure it's on. So this little area here called link selection, when it's blue, now when I move the picture, it moves the sound with it, which is very convenient. In this case, sometimes I want the link on. In this case, I do, and sometimes I want it off, and I'll show you examples of that later.
We pass it on to people who are interested in learning.
Okay, so that makes sense for me. Now, let's bring in someone else like Dwayne. Double-click on Dwayne, load them up, and I'm going to pick something near the end here. Here's Dwayne. I'm going to use the last part of his statement. You guys can pick your own, but this one I'm going to pick.
New century. Taiko is now American. It's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
Okay, so there's a statement somewhere around here. Taiko. His lips are closed, marking in.
Taiko is now American. It's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
Ethnically diverse. Okay, bring that down. Period. So let's take a look at Dwayne here. Just expand that a little bit.
Taiko is now American. It's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
Now, Dwayne has a way of saying every several words, and I'm going to just clean it up just because I want to, and I think it helps make it a little more presentable, if you will. Again, it's just learning how to do this, because if I ever keep saying before every other third word, it gets annoying. So I'm going to take the ums out. Here we go. Let's figure out where it is.
Taiko is now American.
Taiko's now American. Right here. Here's the right here. So I'm going to go to right here and mark the little dip right here, I think. I'm marking in. Marking out. There's the If I hit the semicolon, it would just remove it and leave a hole. No, I'd rather close the gap. Command-Z, undo that. In and out is still there. Hit the apostrophe, it'll pull it up. So here we go.
It's now American. It's Pan-Asian.
Okay, here's another big You can just see it's like this big here. Marking in and out. Apostrophe. Gets rid of it.
Now American. It's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally.
He has two it's now. It's
really.
Okay. The second it's is a little bit quicker and tied to it's really, so I'm not going to try to separate that. So I'm going to get rid of this first it's, which is way back here. And I don't need this whole pause here, so I'm going to bring this down to about here, marking out. That whole section I'm going to remove by hitting apostrophe. This is what we get now.
It's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically Asian. It's really.
Okay, so now, but this first it's up here.
Taiko is now American.
It's a little quick, so I want to double check to make sure that's the best it can be. So I'm going to take my four-headed arrow tool here, double click in here, and now I see the two Dwaynes. The left side is the last frame of the first part, and the first frame of the next one. So I'm gonna. I see his lips are closed here. Let me. No, I don't want to go that way. I'm going to go. And then on this side, see, I'm picking one side or the other. This side, I'm going to. Let's see how that sounds. I hit the space bar to preview this.
Taiko is now American. It's Pan-Asian.
There's a little there still now. I made it worse. So let me click on this side.
Taiko is now American. It's Pan-Asian.
I'm going to go on the right side, add a frame or two, close his mouth.
Taiko is now American. It's Pan.
Yeah, it's very tight, the it's. So I'm going to add a few more.
Learning.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really
Learning.
Okay, so that's still a little extra something in there.
Learning.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian.
Yeah, the way he says it's is a little problematic. So
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian.
I'm going to go with that because that sounds a little smoother. Again, I'm just showing you how you can make those initial edits and then you can adjust them after the fact. So again, I'm going to double click on this one. Let me see this transition from this shot to this shot. I mean, the sound.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, cultural. Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really
Pan-Asian, it's, I'm going to add a little bit more before the it's on the right side here. Close his mouth. Here we go.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically.
And I'm going to check after Pan-Asian. I'm going to add, no, that looks like he's starting off another word.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically.
Okay, I like that. So I made these little minor adjustments. It might be hard for you to hear it in the video, but for me, that works much better. Okay, now I'm going to hit the backslash key to show the entire timeline. And now that I have these two statements, one from Dwayne and one from Kenny, I now make the decision. I want to try start with Dwayne and swap the order. Start with Dwayne and come to Kenny. So I'm going to use my mouse, click and corral these three shots which make up Dwayne's statement, and I want to put them in front of Kenny. So I'm going to grab it and move to the front. If I just move to the front and let go, it just wipes out. It puts it where I need it to go, but then it wipes out the front of Kenny. Here we go.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
I call bearer of the.
Okay, so I wiped out part of Kenny's line. So I'm going to Command Z to undo that. So rather than just drag and drop it, I'm going to drag, and while I'm dragging, I'm going to hold down Command, and now you see these little arrows pointing to the right, and what it'll do is when I let go of everything, it'll move Dwayne to the front, but it'll shove Kenny down so I don't wipe out any of Kenny's lines.
Ethnically diverse.
At a certain point, you.
Ethnically diverse.
Oh, okay, so there's a little extra business. Okay, let me separate this a little bit. Forgot about this little lump here, so I'm going to just grab this, move a little earlier. Ethnically diverse.
It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
There it is.
At a certain.
Okay, good. So now I got the guys in order. I left a little space intentionally between the two. And now let's cut what we call B row, which is the drumming. In this case, I'm going to start at the beginning here. Marking in. Marking out. So that's like my little intro part, and I'm going to put that before Dwayne. So I'm going to push him down. But first off, I'm going to move this V1 up to V2. Make sure V2 over here is highlighted. And take this audio and just click and drag down to A2. The idea is that I want the picture of the drumming and the sound of the drumming not to be on the same track as the talking heads, so I can overlap them. The reason I want to overlap, because of these splices here of Dwayne, they're called jump cuts because I've taken real time out. In this case, it's hard to see from here to here. It looks fairly smooth, but from this edit to this edit, he jumps. And I'm going to cover that up. There's no need to leave that in there since I do have this great drumming B-roll. But I'm going to put it on different tracks. So with the V1 up at V2 and the A1 on A2 of the drumming, I'm now going to hit the comma, which then shoves everything down, inserts the shot before Dwayne for the duration of the in and out that I marked here in the clip. So now this is what we get.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's
Okay, so that's nice and all, but I'm going to extend this drumming to the right to cover up these jump cuts so that now it covers up this splice here and it covers up this splice here, and there is the drumming. Now we know that the sound, by hitting the double clicking here to see the waveforms, it's pretty darn loud. So when we play from here,
Taiko is now American.
we can barely hear Dwayne over all this drumming. So I'm going to drop the volume down, keep some of it in because we still see it here, And to do that, I'm going to click on this little show keyframes thing, and under track keyframes, I'm going to choose volume, track keyframes, volume. It will now allow me to use keyframes to adjust the volume of this entire track. So right here, the playheads, right before Dwayne starts to speak, I'm going to click right here and add a keyframe. And then I'm going to move the playhead, oops, just a little bit more, add another keyframe, so he starts to speak. At this point, I'm going to pull the volume down. Okay? We're going to just trial and error to see how loud is. I might start just a little bit earlier. And here we go.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
Okay, so that works pretty well for me. From top, here we go. Looking at the right screen here.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
Okay, so we solved quite a few problems by doing that. We got rid of the jump cuts. Now let's add a shot for Kenny here before he is over. He's talking about ethnically diverse. Here we go, I'm marking in here. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to put this shot on my timeline. I'm going to start right before Dwayne finishes, and I'm going to come over here, cover parts of Kenny. I can adjust this later. I just want to put this in and see what it looks like. Again, I'm not inserting now. I'm using the period to just drop it in because I don't need to push Kenny. I already left some space for that. So here we go.
Culturally and ethnically diverse.
At a certain point, you stop becoming what I call.
Okay. I'm going to increase this a little bit more so we can see these other people keep things moving.
And ethnically diverse.
At a certain point, you stop becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art.
Okay, so there. But now the drumming, because of this track volume, stays low, since that's the last keyframe I add. What I'm going to do is fade this out on Dwayne, the drumming. There's that keyframe. And I'm going to put another keyframe here, fade this out. So this is at 0. And then over here, I'm going to set another keyframe here at the beginning of this new clip. And after Dwayne finished speaking, I'm going to set a keyframe and bring the volume back up. So there's this gap here where you see a lot of drumming, hear that. Move down here, another keyframe to hold that volume there, and then a second keyframe to start fading it down so we can hear Kenny. All right? So here we go.
Taiko is now American. I mean, it's Pan-Asian. It's really, culturally and ethnically diverse.
At a certain point, you stop becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art, but you.
Okay, so in this case, there's two things I want to do. One, I'm going to extend this drum just a little bit more, so it's not, doesn't go away when the picture goes away, but goes a little bit further than that. But it doesn't allow me to move the clip because we're in this track mode. So I'm going to go back to clip here on the audio and watch what happens now. I can now drag this out. But wait a minute, it's dragging picture. I don't want to do that. So I want to unlink the picture from the sound. So by clicking on that, turning the blue off, I can just extend the drumming, and to do the fade out, I got to go back to the volume mode. And from this point here, put a keyframe, and way down here somewhere, I'll fade it out completely. Okay, it's a little bit busy here, but I think that works. And then with Kenny, I think I'm going to dissolve across from the drummers to him. So because we looked from top down, I'm going to double click on the drumming clip up here, and up top here, go to Effect Controls, and opacity refers to whether or not you can see through an image or not. So at 100%, we cannot see through it. So I set a keyframe here, and then go to the end of the shot of the drumming, or close to the end of it, and set another keyframe. And the second one, I'm going to change this down to 0. So what we get here is a fade out from the drumming to review Kenny. All right? And then the sound continues for a little more and fades out after that. So here we go from Dwayne.
Culturally and ethnically diverse.
At a certain point, you stop becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art, but you become what I call bearer of the.
Okay, I'm going to keep a little bit of the drumming one way too quickly. I'm going to raise this up just a little bit here.
At a certain point, you stop becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art, but you become what I call bearer of the tradition.
Okay, that's a little bit too much, so I'm going to somewhere between that. Okay. Can I get this a little more fine-tuned? I believe I can. Let me, right, so anyway. Okay. So anyway, so that.
Becoming what I call just simply a practitioner of the art, but you become what I call bearer of the tradition. And
okay, so there it is. So that's using sound bites on tracks V1 and the audio with it on A1. Keep that separate. Build that first. Include all the other two interviews, and then use the drumming and the B-roll and the sound, blending that, mixing that, and throw that on the picture on V2 and the sound on A2. So keep those separate so we have this overlapping and all this going on down. So that's the Taiko basic tutorial.